Hey there, folks. Welcome back. So, last episode we did go through and we created our consumable base, we created our junk item, and we added a little bit to our item base class in the form of we added our on use functionality. There is a couple other things we're going to be adding into this. I realized we missed it. Just quickly though, I just wanted to show I did pull over when my content browser wants to respond. A couple of assets into the project just for the junk items so we can start creating some samples of those. So we have an ingot, so an iron ingot, copper ingot, a nail, and a box of nails. Now, with that, as I mentioned, we do have a few things I want to add into our item base. Some of them are just really basic functionality. Others are going to be, actually, I think the only thing we would need to add right now is our weight ones. So we want to add in a couple of functions here just quickly. Actually, before we get started, I need to close out of the editor. I didn't launch through Visual Studio. I launched through the Epic Launcher just because I wanted to check those assets were present. Close out of that just simply so our live code doesn't potentially cause any build issues. But anyways, so first thing we want to do is U function, float get stack weight with a const int amount, and that's going to be a const. We also want to add in another function, float get item weight. This is going to be a const. Now, what we're adding in here, and I'll explain before I go any further, is all of these parameters that we've added that are protected, we have no way of pulling that out for use within the UI. So you're not able to show the name, show the description, the icon, because we've made them protected, because we don't want to be able to start changing them with other code or anything like that. So we need to add, for anyone who's familiar with programming, basically getters. Now, some of these might not make perfect sense, but once we get to the inventory component, which will be in a couple episodes, some of these will. Obviously, these two here, though, are not go-to. Pretty basic. We're just going to add these in quickly. So this is going to be return weight. What do we actually call that parameter? Item weight. Return item weight. And this one here, now because we're not storing the stack size on the actual item, we're going to be doing that in the inventory component. It's just a item weight times by amount. Now, and these are returning constants because they're non-modifiable. We can't say, oh, well, it's saying the weight's 10, but we actually want it to be 20 or 5. And then we need the same thing for the basic UI. However, instead of having a get name, get description, get icon, what I'm going to do here, use struct blueprint type, struct, was it item, sorry, F item UI data. Generated uBody struct, uStruct body, sorry. I'm not talking correct today, it seems. And then we want public, because again, this is just a data class for passing some information around. The other side can technically do what they want with it, but we want uProperty just so it's visible to blueprints, visible anywhere, blueprint read only. And then we want ftext item name, ftext item description, oh, f text, sorry, item description, and then U texture 2D pointer icon. And then we're going to add a constructor to this. So it's f item UI data constructor. Now, you could, in theory, leave a default constructor, which is just this, and then have another one. However, I don't want to add that. Oh, why am I deleting things? I can just undo it. I don't want to add a default constructor that doesn't have anything. I just want a base constructor that takes 3 items. So f text, actually, we're not const, f text reference name, const f text reference description, and const, actually no, that's a pointer, it can't be, U texture 2D pointer icon. And the reason for that is we are quite literally can go item name equals name, item description equals description, icon, oh, casing convention, conflict there, lowercase icon in that case. Actually, I'm going to change the parameter because I would rather item icon equals icon. And then we're going to add a function for that. I'm just going to go f item UI data get UI data const, and now we're going to just create these definitions. Well, this definition, item name, item description, icon. Okay, we're just going to build that quickly, make sure all of this is working. In the interest of time, I'm going to pause the video and I will be back once the build is finished. All right, we're back and the build has finished. So with that, as I say, we just got this basic get UI data, and that's just going to be for when we get around to hooking up the UI component, which won't be for a few episodes. And just trying to think what else we need to add here. We want to return our resource tags. That's only going to be part of when we harvest the object, but we still want to include that. Get salvage data const. And because these are data classes, actually, we can put this information in the header because these are all very basic. So let's actually do that because we don't really need to add anything in here other than the on use, and even that we can put in the header file. So it's going to do this on use, get item stack weight, return item weight. Don't need that there, and then grab that, and we can just get rid of all of these. And again, the whole reason for doing this is because these are data classes. They're not intended to be like super secure or anything like that, because this is all information that's going to be available to pretty much everything. So we can just do that all in here. Repeating myself, I'm sorry. Return resource tags. And then we also need another one for our world mesh. Use static mesh pointer, get world pickup mesh, const return world mesh. So that covers everything we need. Well, actually, no, max stack size. We do need one for that. Where do we want to put that in here? Put that underneath. Yeah, don't need to keep these two organized. Int get max stack. Const return max stack size. Okay, so with that, just covering through this quickly before we move on, what we've done is we have our protected properties that are only going to be exposed to our items and only through their like blueprint editor. They're not going to be exposed anywhere else here. Well, we needed a way to expose them. Well, that's what these are here. Actually, what I'm going to do is just put that like that, because there's the virtual function at the top, which we want to be overriding with all of our classes, or subclasses, I should say. And then we have our functions to get the raw data that we need. Now, these are obviously going to get expanded. So there's going to be, say, for weapons, we're going to be adding in get damage, get things like that. Armor, get equip, get protector, get slot. And let's see, what else do we need to add in here? I think that's everything we need to add to the item base. So we can close out of that for now. Now, in our consumable items, we have our void on use. And what we're going to do is in here, it's going to be for auto. What do we want to call that? Stat. And we named this array stat adjustments. Possible unintended copy is being made. We don't want to do that. For, I'm trying to think how we want to do this. No, that is no, it's T pair. E core stat int pointer effect. Is that going to work? Do I want references? I think we want references. Reference type, okay, tuple equal int, not const qualified, cannot be to tmap base. I'm trying to remember what's the efficient way for doing this. So let's see what it said with for auto. Auto stat adjustment. What was it saying about that? T pair. Oh, it's a float for a start. Because I'm special. So let's go back. No, not. Okay. So that is what I wanted there. This is just for efficiency. So it's actually reference. Yeah, it has to be a reference. The whole purpose of this is instead of creating copies, instead of creating instances for memory efficiency, we're just going to iterate through each one of these. However, caller gets, we're missing our reference to that. So, do you have character? Grab that, and we're going to go back to our consumable. Add that underneath. We add that in there. Get stat line. We did not. So we want to add that in now. So TF character. Down here in public, U function blueprint callable. You actually can just copy that for ease. And this one again, because we're just returning a pointer, stat line. We can use that and declare it in the header. So we'll go back here. Just want to make sure, get stat line. Did we not just define that, or is my typing? Yeah, casing. We want to change this one, because stat line is one word, not two. Now we're going to grab you, and you're going to notice it's going to throw an error. Caller stat. Actually, no, we're just going to call that stat line in lowercase. And it should throw an error about an incomplete data type. Oh, no, sorry, because we have the TF character header reference, and if we look at the TF character source file, we have a stat line. No. Why is that? What? It's not making sense. Save actor. What are we? Oh, we're probably not calling anything. So stat line. This is where it's gonna error out, isn't it? Adjust. Wow, I didn't make this that far. Well, that long ago, and I'm completely forgetting my function names. What did we call them? We didn't. I swore we added a public accessible function there, because it's there in our adjust tick, get save string, update from save string, percent adjust. Did we not add a public function for that? Obviously not. Private, protected, tick, set movement, get stat. We never added that, so this is on me. So we're going to do this pretty easy though. U function, blueprint callable, void adjust stat, const e core stat reference stat, const float reference amount. And just for the purposes of right now, I'm going to leave that undefined here in the header. So we're going to go back here, adjust stat, effect dot key, effect dot value. So what we've done here is we're relying on the object, the consumable object, to tell the stat line this is what you're adjusting by. The reason for this, I understand for most cases, especially in like a multiplayer game, you don't want the item to control that. And I want to be clear with that from the start. You want this to be something that's managed on the server and all of that. Cheating, obviously. The reason why I'm doing it within the item itself is I do intend, obviously much further in the progress, I want to add in modding support. Like I want people to be able to add their own items, modify items, and things like that. So with that, I made the decision early on. That's why it's a single player game. Is one, I don't want to deal with multiplayer replication and all of that. Networking, I deal with that actually is one of the main things, is my primary job. Like professional career, I deal with network related work. I hate it. Not because I'm not good at it, it's just, it's a pain. And I just completely noticed something. Sorry to change topic. I'm completely missed we do need a default constructor on our item data. So I'm going to quickly fix that. So that's in our item base. But anyway, so what I was saying there is I just don't want to deal with a multiplayer game. Plain and simple. I'm not going to that extent. This is my first game I'm making. You guys can't see me doing air quotes here, but pseudo professionally. And I know I'm already picking a pretty, I'm trying to think of the term here, lofty goal of creating a survival game. And I didn't want to overcomplicate that with the multiplayer aspect. Now, should this be successful? Yeah, maybe. But right now, single player. So, back to the point though, because I am purely looking at this from a single player perspective, and if a single player game the player wants to cheat, let them. They're going to find ways, and potentially ways that break your game if you're not careful. So, when you're in a situation where the implications of cheating have zero negative effects on anyone but the person cheating, just let them do it. So, anyway, so just to go back to where I was saying on here. So, on the consumable item, when we call the onUse function, we are getting the stat line of the TF character that called, and they are going to, or it's then going to iterate through each of the predefined stat adjustments that we have added, and it's going to call back to the stat line component, and from there it's going to make those required adjustments. Anyway, so now that I've realized there was that build error and we've added this in, we're going to run another build quickly. And then if this build succeeds, which I'm hoping it should now, we're actually going to hop into the editor and we'll just start creating some basic junk items just to show people what we created in the last few episodes does work. As I know we only did that very quick debug for the initial item base that we created. But with that, again, in the interest of time, I'm going to pause the video and I'll be back as soon as the build is done and we're back in the editor. Alright, so that build succeeded and we're back in the editor. Just going to bring the content browser over here. So with that, just going to quickly open up our C++ classes so we can take a look. So in our items, we have our three. We have our item base, which is the lowest level. Nothing can be derived from that. We have our consumable item base, which is for things like food and drink. And we have our junk items, which are our resource items. Things like screws, planks, nails, stuff like that that you don't plan on being equipable by the player. I use that because I realized a plank could be equipped as a weapon, actually something I do intend to include. So we are going to go to our project folder, blueprints. Now this time, we're not going to use the dev, because we're actually looking at creating something that might be used further down the line. So I'm going to put new folder, items. And then we're going to put a subfolder, junk items. And in here, blueprint class, search junk. Junk item base. Actually, just while we're in here, I want to also say we do item base. It's still present. Now, hopping back into here, is this just because I missed it? Item base. No, we didn't. So, to explain, you can't actually create it. Don't worry if you see it here. We can do an object, but we can't do an item base, but we can do a junk item base. The reason for this is it shows your class hierarchy here in the browser. So we want to create a junk item though. And I'm going to name this BP copper bar. No, copper base. Copper bar. Simple as that. So you're going to see when we open this up, you can open on this screen or a different one. I can't remember. No, off to the left. So we have our basic setup here. Well, if you notice, it's the exact same as item base. The only thing that on use, we can call that, which is something that in theory you could call an item base if we had defined it. So what we're going to do here to start with, copper bar base. Why do I type that by default? A simple copper bar. We don't have an icon for that yet. I'm going to say these can have a max stack of 10. Now, because this is a resource stat, we don't want to add any resource tags. World mesh. Well, I'm not going to search through that list. I'm going to just move this out of the way quick. That was from my mining fantasy pack. Models, ingots, ingot 7. Bring that back. Put that here. And we're going to say that has a weight of 2.5. And there's a basic item. Now, let's see. Go back to our items. Go new folder, consumable. I think I made a mistake here, and we're going to have to do a live compile. Is that the right spelling? Yep. You can see here we don't have the attribute that we need. So, junk item, just to grab, make sure we get that. It's blueprintable. And copy that to our consumable base. We're going to throw that in there. We're going to save. Hop back into the editor. Cancel out of this. We're going to do a live code compile. I'm going to pause the video again while this code compilation runs through. It should be really quick, but you never know. So I'll be back in a moment. All right, so that live code compile finished without issue. So we're just going to close out of that window. We're in our consumable folder. Going to go blueprint. Down here in all classes, consume, consumable item base, we're going to select, and this one, BP mushroom, because there's going to be multiple, I'm going to say mushroom 01. Now, depending, you may want to provide alternate names, things like that, that might be a little more concise, like portobello. It's the only mushroom name I can think of. I know there's lots, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them out there, thousands even. But I don't want to go to that level within my blueprints. So I understand the mushroom that we have currently in the project. Mountain environment, I think. Nope. Conifer... Cave? The cave kit. Okay. I couldn't even remember where I put it. And this is where, if anyone's watched my intermission episode, asset paralysis. This is the sort of thing, you've got all this you're trying to hunt for. I've got like 139 static mesh, and like 100 of them are doors or door related. But anyways, so we're going to just select that. We're going to bring this back, add that to our world mesh. We want our item weight to be 1. Resource tags, we don't, this is something I may change in the future, but you could here, I plan on not having any resource harvestable from a mushroom, but you could have something like organic matter, depending on how detailed you want your game to be. Max stack size, I'm going to say, is 25. Again, we don't have an icon. Icons I don't plan on covering too much, simply because there's 1,000 different ways you can do it in different styles for your project. There's icon creator plugins you can get. There's multiple different ways, so I'm just going to leave icons out. You will notice as we start getting further into the series, I have icons because I've created them myself. I may cover briefly my process. I'll see if there's any interest, but if that is something that is interesting to you, you want to see the process of how I create the icon, then leave a comment and I'll see about that. For now, unknown mushroom. a strange mushroom. The reason for that is I honestly have no idea what that would look like or what sort of mushroom that looks like. So compile and save that. Now you'll notice up here it's separated. We have item base and we have consumable items. So stat adjustment, we're going to go health. I want to actually say -5. It's a poisonous mushroom. Well, we do it. So here we've got all 4. We can't do a 5th because there is only 4. Stamina is going to be, I'm going to say +10. This particular mushroom I'm planning on ripping out more than likely, or readjusting these. Hunger, we're going to go 5. Thirst, we're going to go -5. Yeah, -5. So what this would mean is this particular mushroom, if a character ate it, it's going to damage their health, it's going to lower their thirst further, but it's going to fill up a bit of hunger and give them a bit of stamina. So I don't want to use the term magic, simply because that implies something entirely different when you're talking about mushrooms, but it's one of those sort of weird mushrooms. Anyways, folks, so we have hit our 30-minute mark on this episode. I'm going to wrap things up here. Next episode, I'm actually going to cover moving things into their own, like moving the data types. Let me just bring this up so I can show you an example. That's going to be things like in the stat line component, we're going to move these into their own independent header files. And the reason being for that is we want to make them easily accessible to any class that needs to use them. You're going to notice it happens a lot. Like, go to definition here. It's going to open it up. Yeah. You have the Unreal string, which most of this is unneeded. A lot of it is just, actually, this is a very bad example. I shouldn't have used string, so ignore that. Either way, though, so next episode is going to be moving things into their independent header files, and after that, we will continue with the item and inventory system. It's just those data files really are needed to move forward easily. So thanks again for watching, everyone. As I mentioned, if you do have an interest in seeing how I create icons, please let me know in the comments. I will, if there's enough interest, I will record an episode on that. But as always, any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next episode.